More and more you're seeing it. People are not wanting to have families. They don't want to have children. They say they can't afford it.
We've been priced out of buying a home. We've been priced out of going to the grocery store and just getting the things that we need. We've been priced out of medical care. We've been priced out of Social Security. We've been priced out of 401ks, retirements, everything. We've been priced out of life. We've been priced out of children. We've been priced out at every single step. And they wonder why we're not having children. Like, I don't, and then the people that are like, well, just work hard and just do this and just do that. You have never actually lived in the time that we're living in right now. I wish all the boomers had to start over right now. Start from scratch, because the company that you're going to be hired to is not going to offer you benefits. You're not going to get health insurance. You're not going to get a 401k. You're not going to get barely any PTO, and you're going to get paid so much less in comparison to what it was back then. Cost of it, like, people don't do the math actually right, because they're like, well, y'all are getting paid so much more, da 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 da. The new $5 back when you were doing stuff is now $20. The new $20 back when you were doing stuff is $100. So we might be getting paid just marginally more, which actually minimum wage federally hasn't changed since 2009. Fact check that. I'm pretty sure it was 2009. Get out of here. The boomers, go. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We have been priced out of life.
Yeah, I don't really get what the plan is for like a future of American society when no one can afford to have kids. Like, they're clearly not going to do anything about the cost of housing being so expensive that no one can afford to buy homes, or like no one who owns a home right now is ever going to buy a new one because it's so expensive. They're clearly not going to do anything about childcare being thousands of dollars a month, and the fact that you have to put your kid in daycare because you can't afford to have a one-parent household. And they're not going to do anything about student loan debt and the fact that one or all three of those things prevent people from having kids because we can't afford it. I know part of what they're going to do is take away birth control, take away abortion until like we don't have much say in the matter. But what is the plan for a country where no one can afford to have kids, where it's so inhospitable to have kids that people don't have kids? Like, I'm 30 years old. None of my friends have kids. There's a whole group of boomers that are retiring right now. A lot of them have homes where all their money is tied up in their home, and they're going to need to sell their home to afford to live for the rest of their lives, 10, 20, 30, whatever, how many years they have left. Who's buying their homes? We're not buying their homes. We can't afford to buy their homes. So like, how are they going to live? What are they going to do? What are we going to do? Who's going to be in the future if no one has money to have kids? I don't understand like what anyone's plan is.
When somebody tells you they can't afford to have children, this is what they're talking about. A woman in my town's Facebook group shared these daycare rates today, and she said, how do you afford kids here? Because nobody knows how anybody is paying for this. For an infant for 5 days a week with 10 hours of care, it is $664 a week. That is just shy of $35,000 a year for one child. And the price does not drop that much when they hit pre-K here. It's $521 a week, which is about like $28,000 a year, okay? These are incredibly high rates for daycare. And of course, you could drop down to 9 hours a day or whatever it might be. But here's the thing. When you go to daycare, typically you're going to take the most hours because you have to commute to work, you have to commute back from work, and you have to work 8 hours a day. And unfortunately, when you miss pickup by 1 minute, they start charging you like $2 a minute. So usually it's more cost effective just to pay the higher rate for the 10 hours than to pay for the 9 hours, which is like crazy because it's 1 hour difference. These are rates for one kid. We were talking about one child. Imagine if a family has two kids. They're paying $50,000, $60,000 a year for childcare. That is unsustainable for most families. And yes, the cost goes down slightly as they get older. But what that doesn't account for, that rate sheet, is the annual increase. Every single September, daycare centers raise their tuitions because they have to. And typically that's anywhere between 5 to 20%. And most people are looking at 10% increase. So even though you have that savings when they hit pre-K, by the time your kid hits pre-K, it's been been 4 or 5 years. That rate has gone up exponentially, okay? So when someone tells you they can't afford to have children, oftentimes it's because of the cost of childcare. And if it's not just the cost of childcare, it's the cost of housing and groceries, and you compound all those things, healthcare costs, it's incredibly expensive. I did not know, looking back 4 or 5 years ago when I first started having kids, that I would be paying this much money for daycare because the rates looked drastically different. The rates over the last 20 years or something have gone up like 200%. It is wild how expensive childcare is in our country. If we had affordable childcare, it would not only benefit families and children, it would benefit the economy, it would benefit businesses, and it would benefit us as a greater society. The economy would be better for it. This is not just a parent problem, right? But like people constantly are looking at adults who are married or of, birthing years and saying, why aren't you having kids? And we're looking around saying, how could we possibly have kids when we can't even afford to buy a house?
I genuinely will never understand how some people can give birth to multiple children when they know they can't afford it. I say this respectfully, because hear me out. It's one thing if you have 1 or 2 by accident, life happens. We can't control that. But what we can control is after the 3rd, 4th, 5th child, at that point you are more than well aware of how much a child costs and the financial burdens of it. I want multiple children too, but I know that I can't afford it right now. So I would never put my child in a situation where they have to live a hard life because of choices I made. I would never want to do that because I have been there as a child. I didn't live a very good life. I don't want to do the same thing my parents did. Worst thing you can do to a child is literally not give them a good life. That is literally a form of neglect. If you're going to have the child be able to support them financially, have a roof over their head and food on the table. If you can't do that, then maybe it's not wise to have the 3rd, 4th, or 5th child. Like I said, 1 or 2, I understand. Things happen, life happens. Unforeseen circumstances happen. But after the 3rd, 4th, and 5th one, you're aware at that point. And if you're going to have a child when you know you can't afford it, you're just going to give them a hard life, which I don't think is fair to the child because they did not choose to be born. But you chose to have another child when you knew you couldn't afford it.
We're moving to the area in this month. I was wondering if you guys have any availability, and if so, what the cost is.
Free would be $2,430.
2,400, is that for a 12-month-old or an infant?
That would be for a 12-month-old.
Wondering what your availability looks like for full-time childcare.
Do not have a consistent spot. They're about 2.5 years old.
Okay.
2.5 right now would be our guaranteed time frame. You're welcome. No problem at all. Hope you have a great day.
You too. Bye.
The dream used to be to have a home, get married, kids, everything. And now people are just, doing solo life and not really thinking about having children anymore. And people are putting off marriage as well. There's a lot of people that are choosing not to get married or waiting till later in life, waiting to have children because they literally feel like they just can't afford to. And this is not anything particularly new as well. For generations, there have been people that don't want to get married and don't want to have kids, but there is a large increase in that now. And that's an issue because of lower population. There's a lot of countries now that are having lower population because or there's going to be projected lower population. And I know there's a lot that goes with that. There's certain things that I won't say on here, but people should be fruitful and multiply. That's how we are able to sustain humanity. So what are your thoughts? Let me know down below if you think that this is going to be changing anytime soon, or what your observations have been in your local areas. I know I've been seeing it a lot, and I hope that things do change, because I know that there are a lot of people that do want families, that do want to get married, that do want to have children, and they feel stuck. They feel like they can't afford it. And, a lot of times there are changes that can be made so that you don't have to necessarily feel that way. So I hope you're well. Leave any comments down in the comment section below. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next video.